I had a question about what Amber had asked earlier with regards to African Americans in Paris. I personally also have like a complicated relationship with on that level. I also, perhaps I'm performing, but growing up, the people that I really admired reading, whether that's Baldwin or Richard Wright or Langston Hughes, and the way they talk about experiencing Paris, I find for myself is the way that I feel about Paris when I experience it. And then I start thinking that perhaps what Paris provided for so many of the scholars is a way to be in exile and be American in a space that doesn't strip you or recognizes both your blackness and your Americanness, but makes the Americanness as equal to the blackness as possible. And because they all talk about it in their writings. So if anything, Paris becomes a space of liberation, because only there do they become as American as they ever sort of fantasize or desired.
Also, what's that other real quick? Also potentially in ways that Black Americans are able to be Black in France, and what you're saying in ways that Afro-French are not.
Oh, not anymore. Yeah, and I'm very conscious of that too, because I notice I can perform my Black Americanness in that space in ways that I notice.
Yeah, you can't.
You know, it's relatives of mine who are there cannot even ever put a claim to the space in the same way. But what I want to ask with regards to that is, it seems that the French, whether from the outside or people from the inside, there's a way of categorizing history by way of periods. So the First Republic, the Second Republic, the Third Republic. And I noticed that with regards to each segment of time that periodizes the history, certain sort of erasure can happen. And I'm wondering whether that's what facilitates Black Americans to be able to make certain claims to Paris while avoiding any sort of larger interaction with Paris' own long history of engaging Blackness, which we know exists for hundreds of years. But also I'm thinking about Haitian anthropologists who had always traveled to Paris, done research, attended the schools, responded to French scholars.
But ended up living in New York or in Montreal, not in Paris. But ended up living either in Port-au-Prince or New York or Montreal, not Paris.
Yeah, I mean, they would do work in Paris but leave. They would never stay. And yes, they
because
never
the
talk
memory
about
of
Paris
because you know those periods that when you talk about erasure, Haitian intellectuals, Haitian historians do not want to let go of the whole Louverture situation. So it does not well with France. No, it does not work well with France.
Exactly.
When Sartre and Beauvoir are giving away the 100 square meter apartment to Richard Wright and opening the castle in Saint-Beau-de-Provence, it's also the French government, rubbing it on Americans now. So look how you're treating these amazing individuals. It's also an indictment of segregation. It's the same thing. We did the same thing with great artists, South African artists. I know the names of 10 South African jazzmen, 10 South African because they were all given exile to France. Most often than not, they don't want to stay in France. They will go to England because they don't speak French. But it was a way of pointing the finger at bad America, pointing the finger at bad South Africa. So if you give, my dad is writing a book to talk about how the erasure of Wolof, when he was affected him. Why would he get a job? Because who is he pointing the finger at? French. So there's also this element that we need to take into account. And I know that growing up, I was completely fascinated by Black Americans in Paris because, again, they were the closest thing that I had to seeing Black people being respected in France. I mean, I'm talking about 25 years ago. Now, it's my parents. And I've discovered so much about the intellectual world in Africa, and this is what we're doing. All this generation. If you look at, I'm just in awe looking at what's happening in the social media. since February 2017, everybody's hearing about Fatou-Niang and Achille Mbembe, and wow, you have these great intellectuals who could teach in any amazing, Ivy League in America, and they're choosing to teach where? In Saint Louis, Senegal, in the University of... So we are turning our gaze slowly from like this Western part, whether it's America or London or France, to going back. Is it home? I don't know, because home is, I'm not going to lie, home is Paris for me, home is France.
I guess we have another question.
At which point did
Could we
the
hear
new
one more
At what?
voice, a new voice? Because I heard.
Oh, we can finish this conversation after.
I would like to hear more about the gaze of the first generation, second generation of immigrant or immigrant in France toward Africa. And I think that is really interesting for me because I feel African and I'm now black African, not black American African, but black African. So I would like to hear more about that because you were speaking earlier about the gaze that you had a problem looking back at Africa. So why first and why now? Why looking back now? So I would like to hear more.
And then we had one speaker, Bintu, for example, she was saying how she felt so rejected from from Senegal and being called a white girl at that time. But yeah, I guess the complicated relationships between Europe and Africa, black, and we can circle back to this idea of racializing Africa. This is the work of Pierre, but how do we study race in Africa? Perhaps we can talk about it, race as in blackness, not ethnicity.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So I have a friend, Josa Assemble, who was just nominated last Thursday on the César, which is the French Oscar.
Cameroonian?
Yeah, she's from Cameroon, and she had a show that is called the best in the world. So she has this short called Le Bleu Blanc Rouge de mes cheveux, the blue, white, and red of my hair. And so the whole thing started after she had a fro. She went to take a picture for her passport, and the girl told her, "Oh, you don't fit in you have to cut, not cut, but pull your hair back. It doesn't fit in the frame." And she just sat there. So that gave her the idea for the movie, like her fro literally didn't fit in the framework.
Wow.
So, and her movie is doing fantastic. And so I was like, okay, how is it going with your parents? And she said, my mom, she doesn't understand this whole thing. She doesn't understand that, so African parents, you're not gonna come and say, oh, I want to make movies. It's like, bring you to law school, something like that. So, okay, so you're playing with this film situation, and hey, now you're getting accolades, you're going to, but they don't understand, especially this whole thing with what is black. Growing up in Africa, you don't see first of all, you grow up, everybody around you don't ask yourself this color question because everybody, around you is whatever, So you discover that you're black once, especially parents. And also most of the parents live in kind of isolated community situation, and it's Cameroonian, and we go back again to this idea of the diasporic. We didn't really grow up in diasporic context because it was literally Cameroonian with Cameroonian. When I take the example of Senegalese in Lyon, it was not even Senegalese with Senegalese, it was the Saraholais, from northern Senegal living together, the Wolof from Dakar living together. And so people were really living in language community, ethnic community. So how do you go from having this idea of I'm Saraholais French to, oh, I'm Senegalese French. Oh, actually, I'm black French. Because not only I'm going beyond, most of our parents didn't have friends from another, I'm not even talking about national group, but from another ethnic group. So from them, and there's lots of research on race, issues with someone from northern Senegal marrying a guy from southern Senegal, but we were all born in Paris, right? And then you bring a guy from Martinique, but it's good because we're all black, and the parents are looking at you like, what are you talking about? So it's something else. There's a generational shift, and I can feel it because I am 13 years older than my little sister, and she's already, it's the next level. and I'm talking about what's happening. So there's an acceleration. It's something that Mabula talks about in the film. There's an acceleration of this debate. We started, it was very shy the way we brought this black question in 2005, and then now it's everywhere. The first black movie made by a black director talking about this question was Isabelle Bonny-Clavry's Trop noire pour être française, too black to be French, and that's very interesting. She was invited in on TF1, and the journalist introduced, it's her and Isabelle, who's been in France forever, and the journalist introduced, so the title of the movie is Too Black to be French, and he introduced and he said, oh, Isabelle Bonny-Clavry, who's here to introduce her movie, Too French to be Black.
Wow.
So it was a very interesting Freudian slip.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's one movie, and then all of a sudden I made my movie in 2016, Amandine Gay made hers, Ouvrir la Voie, and then now, I think this year, following what's happening on the social networks, there's like 10 movies. And because the state also is not giving us money, we're all like auto-financing it through, how do you say, the kiss kiss bang bang, things like that, because auto-financing, which is problematic, because we pay taxes and the state cannot. It's a problem.
Taxes are high.
Yeah.
Profession. The film is done very beautifully. We largely see women subjects being featured, and you hear their voices, you hear the voices of introspection. Can you tell me a little bit about what's happening in terms of a gender dynamic that's happening across gender in the space? Are those that are gendered male, are they responding in similar ways? Are men responding in similar ways? Are they at the forefront of this kind of a thinking? You seem like you're part of a vanguard of people sort of really deconstructing what it means to have these multiple identities in France. What's happening across gender?
So we have an extremely, when you talk about minorities in France, there's a extremely dysfunctional gender dynamic going on, and I think there's something similar in the U.S. For every, we don't have racial, ethnic statistics, it's forbidden. But the Pew Center has been doing an amazing job at being able to go around the states, and we start having the first ethnic and religious numbers like 10 years ago. And this is a number that I really want. I mean, we are all calling for the state to verify it, because if it was true, then we really have a problem. For every 8 French girl graduating high school, French black girl graduating high school, you have 2 boys. So out of 10 Afro-French graduating high school, you have 8 girls and a boy. You take top jobs, university, graduating from universities, the men are just absolutely absent. And it's exactly the same dynamic that you see with Arabs, the descendant of Moroccan, Algerian, and Tunisian. So sub-Saharan Africa, the Maghreb. The only minority with which you don't see these discrepancies are people from Asia, but it's a really, really tiny majority. We're talking about a very tiny population. So there's issues. And the movies, the movement, I mean, this whole conversation about black identity it's female intellectuals, female artists, female directors. Right now I have 12 movies, documentaries, 12 female directors. And it's a problem. Where are the men? The first, I don't know if you know Leonora Miano. She's a writer, again from Cameroon.
Yes.
So she led an edited volume that came out in May that's called Marianne et le garçon noir, Marianne and the black boy. And yeah, it's where are the men? Where are the men?
Any suggestions as to why? Any sort of thoughts as to why?
Oh, I know why. I don't know if it's PC to say, but I do know why. So when I don't know if you know about the Moisi. So it's a group that my sister's age. You know, when I talk about how the dynamics are changing. So our generation, we're trying to understand, put words on things, and my sister, she's like, this is not working. Damn. We're taking this. I'm not going to discuss. I'm not going to try to put words. This is how I feel. If people can accept it, they accept it. If they can't, bam. Say, okay, can you just not punch them? Can you just walk away? No, I'm not walking away. I feel like punching someone. So it's a new dynamic. I mean, they really it's really this idea. Why should I be between? This is where I am from. This is where I belong, and I should not even have to explain it. And I'm not going to walk away because I don't want to have to explain. I'm going to take it. It's mine, and I'll have to fight. And I'll fight someone. So the dynamic is very different. And pardon?
I said that's what's up.
Oh, yeah, no, they're not playing with that. So, the thing is, when, the reason I was telling you was the dynamic, yes. So, when they had this first summer group that they created, everybody was talking about it, and then a deputy from the right-wing party tweeted that apparently they receive money from the state to do this little summer get-together, and 3 of the get-together that they're doing out of 17 are just for black female. And it was just, people went berserk. This is a group of 17 women. The mayor of Paris get into that, and she ended up being, if I do an event, I will hire her. She's the best PR ever. She gave them, I mean, at the time they had something like 700 euros on their GoFundMe. They ended up with more than 50,000 euros, with people sending money from the US, Australia. She gave them, because it was not normal. You can't, so anybody can meet. If you look at our government, it's the white boys club, but 7 black women cannot meet without it being forbidden. And the underlying, I mean, if people went insane, and you will see the program being cut, and the biggest philosophers are being invited. And the thing was, how racialization was done, with Orientalism and all these things. Asians are, like weak. The Asian male is weak, effeminated. The Asian female is a, sexual toy. The Arab female is a sexual toy. The Arab male, he's the worst. He will stab you and kill you. The black male, a little bit dumb, but you have to be careful because he's very strong. He can hurt you. And the imaginary, this is what Isabel was talking around around black female was, we're the nanny, we're the one who can calm the man. So we've always been like a comforting presence for in the French psyche. So to see the Moisi girl go crazy was like, we've always had problem with our Arabs. We sometimes have problem with our black males, and now if the black women are getting into it, then we are. So things might have been easier in this whole thing with us because we were seen as, as closer. We are the nannies.
That's right.
I don't know if it's the same situation in the US, but in France it's definitely. So the door is kind of, whenever it's open, it will be for a black woman before.
Think we have to end here.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you again, Dr. Niang, for coming, for talking to us, and I wanted to thank you all for being here and asking these great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.